Absolute craziness going on in college basketball. 8 ranked teams took an L over the weekend. Oklahoma handed now number 4 Alabama its first loss since mid-December in impressive fashion, blowing out the Crimson Tide in a double-digit win. The SEC Big 12 Challenge just continued with Mississippi State beating out TCU in overtime, and Missouri knocks off Iowa State. Thanks to the Cyclones' turnovers, Mizzou scoring 20 points off of 19 Iowa State turnovers. And getting it all stacked up, the ranked teams to lose on Saturday. You got Alabama. They're now moving to number 4 in the AP Top 25 after their loss to Oklahoma. TCU goes from 11 to 15 after losing 81-74 to Mississippi State. Iowa State, they go from 12 to 13. Then we have Xavier, Auburn, Charleston, Miami joining that long list of ranked teams to lose over the weekend. And we got Jerry Palm and Tim Doyle joining us here on HQ to recap the losses and also what that means moving forward for Bracketology. And we're moving over forward to the Monday slate. So, Jerry, starting off with the 8 ranked teams that have lost over the weekend, including Bama, TCU, Iowa State. Just crazy. Are you used to seeing this type of, upsets at this point in the season?
Oh, yeah. It happens every year. It's, I suppose, a little unusual this past week because there was only one game between ranked teams, which meant that 7 lost to unranked teams. But from a bracketology perspective, that's not overly meaningful because the AP poll and the coaches poll have no value to the committee. They're not criteria. So the concept of a ranked team losing or beating a ranked team doesn't really mean anything. They have the net, that's their ranking. And even that's not terribly influential. But yeah, this sort of chaos, you'll see that in college basketball, 2 or 3 times a season where things just don't go well for the teams thought to be better.
Yeah, and I think a way to handicap this is when you go through those teams that lost that were ranked, they were all on the road. They were all on the road with the exception of Charleston that was home that lost to the fighting Speedy Claxtons, right? These were all other road teams. Auburn was on the road. Xavier was on the road. Heck, Xavier was almost 7-point dogs in that game against a Creighton team that's really starting to play their best basketball. Look for them to move up as they finally get healthy. But I think something to think about is December is the students are gone. Right, bye-bye. You play a lot of games and the crowds are like, bring in the old people, bring in the kids, all right? That's how we're going to get our fans in here. Now the students are back. You got a top 25 opponent coming to town. Place is going to be crazy. Players are fired up for those games. And also these conference play, right? Guys know each other. Teams know each other. Coaches know each other. General scheme. So, yes, we see it year in and year out. As Jerry would say in the background, I saw that Queen thing. Another one bites the dust.
All right, let's talk about Alabama. According to Caesars, their odds are at plus 1,200 now to win the national championship. But, Jerry, you still have them as a 1 seed in your bracketology. So are you saying that the overall body of work for Bama this season just means more than that loss to Oklahoma?
That is always true. Your entire body of work means more than your most recent result. Although, obviously, your most recent result is part of your body of work. But as the games pile up, each individual new game means less because it's 1/25th and then 1/30th of your entire resume. And Alabama had built a pretty good gap between themselves and the rest of the bracket. And so this loss to Oklahoma, even though Oklahoma is a team that's not quite in the bracket yet, but this is a big feather in their cap as they're trying to chase a spot in the bracket. And in fact, that it was a big margin. Alabama still has a better overall resume than the teams chasing them, but that gap is now pretty much gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing that you have Kansas State up there. Kansas, interesting, has 8 quad one wins, which is most in college basketball. That would be amazing to see Kansas State get a number 1 and not Kansas. But I'm not going to argue with Jerry Palm. I'm not going to argue with anybody that before the segment airs, he was on the phone. I don't know if it was an act, Jacqueline, but I was sold. Like, I felt like he was calling in like, this guy's a 2, this guy's a 4. Get them out of here. Kentucky's gone. Like, I don't know if you were selling, Jerry, or it was an act, but I was sold by the way you were talking on the phone before this segment.
I mean, he's a busy dude, Tim. What do you expect? He's got to make some phone calls. Let's talk about Texas. They're fresh off that loss to Tennessee. They are going to get another shot at a ranked win against Baylor. Now, the only loss that Texas has at home this year was against Kansas State. So, Jerry, what do you think we're going to see from Texas tonight?
This is a huge game for Texas. Coming off the loss at Tennessee, their next two games are at K-State, at Kansas. So that's going to be 4 games in a row against teams that are currently 1 and 2 seeds in my bracket. And Texas is one of those teams as well. But 3 of those games are on the road. So the home game is so much more important, because otherwise, if you don't win the home game, you could be staring a 4-game losing streak in the face. And that's momentum you don't want at this time of year. So this is a huge, huge game for Texas to defend their home floor against another very good team in Baylor.
Yeah, I mean, there's just absolutely no way I'm picking Texas in this spot. I had this game more of a pick 'em, and the fact that Texas is now 4-point favorite, it was 3.5 earlier in the day. Baylor's just playing exceptional basketball. 6 straight wins. Scott Drew, like him, don't like him. He plays anybody. Go through their schedule. They've played the best of the best throughout college basketball. Keontae George, 24 big points at a game against Arkansas where it wasn't necessarily pretty, but they figured out a way. Rodney Terry's done a great job at the helm of Austin, kind of controlling all of the distractions there down in Austin. But this should be a pick 'em. The fact that I'm getting all these points in a game that I think is going to be a bloodbath. Let's not forget, Texas wants what Baylor has. That's a national championship. I trust that experience of Cryer, Flagler. Give me Baylor in this spot.
So there are some 3 seeds that are in action tonight. Iowa State looking to rebound from that loss to Mizzou, and then UVA and ACC play against Syracuse. So, Jerry, what is the significance of these matchups?
Well, these are both road games. So, it's going to be tough because they're conference games and you're on the road. So even though they don't look like, strong matchups on paper, road games and conference play are always a bear. So for Iowa State, it's important because Texas Tech is the one team in the entire league that's not in the top 50 of the net, and the one team in the entire league that doesn't really have a realistic shot at the NCAA tournament. So even though it's a road game, it's really a big game to take advantage of because all the other games are going to be tougher. And then for Virginia, I mean, you're just trying to cruise along through the ACC till you get an opportunity to play some of the better teams, but you don't want to stub your toe in a game like this, even though it's on the road. Syracuse is kind of a team that this would be a bad loss for Virginia, and they don't get as many chances in the ACC to make up for bad losses.
All right, Timmy, do you want to get your picks? Iowa State at Texas Tech. What you got for us?
Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Iowa State. I love them. I love Iowa State. Are you kidding me? Did you watch the last matchup? Iowa State smacked around Texas Tech. They beat them by 34 points. Look at the spread. Look at the spread in this game. I get it. Iowa State had a career game. Not talking to it. It was just Jerry Palm, right? 12 of 22 last out against Texas Tech. They dominated Texas Tech. Only had 11 turnovers, won the rebounding battle. I don't know, Jacqueline. Maybe this looks too easy out there. But Iowa State, I know what I'm getting here. Gabe Kalashaw's is shooting nearly 40% from 3. Last 2 seasons, he has certainly struggled from deep, under 25%. He was great in the first matchup. Problem was, I watched the first game, and these two teams are very different talent-wise. So maybe the spread, maybe it says sucker up here right on the forehead, okay? But I'm going to be hammering Iowa State in this game.
Okay, Tim, you got your hammer. And Jerry, I heard you had your phone. Did you get another phone call? More picks, more things coming
Tim.
in?
He won't leave me alone. Tim, can't we just talk during the segment? You have to call me too.
All right. We have... Yeah, okay. I feel like Tim's trying to make himself seem a little bit more important. He's trying to get on the level of Jerry with all these like fake phone calls, right, Tim? We have Virginia at Syracuse. And Tim, you like the under on this one.
Yeah, I played at Syracuse, okay? And let me tell you a little bit about playing up there. It's hard to shoot. It's really hard to shoot. And the numbers reflect that because these two teams, if you combine their total score, well over 140. And they played earlier this year down at Virginia, and it was a game that they scored 139 points. So now I'm looking at this total, 132. Hello? Like, none of the numbers make sense here. And why is it so low? Because in the first meeting where it went over this number, the two teams combined to shoot 20 of 40 from 3. That ain't happening in the Carrier Dome. I played at St. John's loosely. I mostly clapped the whole time. But when we played against Syracuse, we were 9 for 41 from 3, and one of my teammates, I'm not going to name his name, Elijah Ingram. He took 23 pointers. He only made 2 of them, okay? Why? It's a hard place to shoot. This is a game that's going to go under, so you're going to be depressed for 2 hours. But at the end of the day, Jacqueline, you're going to be cashing a winning ticket.
Tim taking the under and also throwing teammates under the bus. Tim Doyle, Jerry Palm joining us here on HQ, talking college hoops, not without whipping out their cell phones. They are important guys. For more college basketball insight, make sure you check out the Eye on College Basketball podcast. In the very latest episode, Gary Parrish is making his case for Alabama despite that loss over the weekend and discussing whether Creighton and Indiana can win their conference titles. Download and listen wherever you get your podcasts. You can also scan the QR code.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.